In this game, winners win, and I only back winners. Trainer Kenny McPeak is a proven winner, and his horses are in my portfolio. And now they can be in yours too. McPeak's champion horses and Derby hopefuls are now featured on Morning Line. With Morning Line, I don't just watch the race. I own the moment. I invest in champions. This is my edge. Buy, sell, trade, anytime. Morning Line, own the game.
Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at one of the undercard races on Lecomte Saturday at Fairgrounds. The race right before the Lecomte is the Grade 3 Louisiana for the older horses going the same distance the 3-year-olds will travel about 30 minutes later. 1 mile and a 16th on the dirt. We got 8 runners in this race. Pretty intriguing group led by the Brad Cox trainee Just a Touch. Before we get into the field though, I want to remind everybody that this video is sponsored by Morning Line. Unlock access to some of racing's most coveted bloodlines. Fillies and Colts connected to championship pedigrees. Morning Line is a private SEC-regulated marketplace where approved participants can trade licensed interest in elite racehorses. No ongoing costs. Build your stable only at morningline.io. Let's look at this field of 8 runners that were entered for the Grade 3 Louisiana. Mike, like I said, Just the Touch leads this field from the outside post. Brad Cox had entered this horse in the Tenacious about a month ago. I think he had a relatively light work tab for that race, so maybe they just elected to get another month of workouts at him to be fitter for his eventual return in this Grade 3 event, Mike. And he's certainly the horse to beat based on the potential that he's shown early on, but he does come in with some things to prove.
No doubt. Yeah, he's clearly a talented horse, and I think most people could look at this race and say, if he shows up here and runs his good one, he'll probably beat these horses. But it's not like he's sort of done that in the past in the races where they've really tested him, and he does come off of 2 pretty disappointing losses the last 2 times we saw him.
Everybody, if you're watching this video on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button just below the video. That helps us with the YouTube algorithm to feed you more of the videos that we like that we're producing, and we get to produce more videos when you subscribe to the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race, and Just the Touch has plenty of early speed. It would be no surprise if they're looking to get forward with him, Mike, but there are a couple horses to his inside that are likely going to be sent forward as well. Accelerize, a horse that's stretching out around 2 turns for the first time. They might get aggressive with him. Tarantino on occasion has shown speed, and Willy D is a horse that has run some of his best races from the front end, but he is versatile enough to come from off the pace. So I think any of those 4 could play out to be the pace setter, and it's going to depend on the break.
I probably does. And I guess there's a lot of rider intention here too. We'll see how they decide to play it. I mean, the pace projector thinks that Willy D's can be on a clear lead at the pace call. I'll be honest, David, I'd be very surprised if that was the case. I mean, I feel like there's enough speed in here to make this at least an honestly run race. I do not think they're going to be going a slow pace early in the end.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with a horse who will not be on the early lead. That is the number 1 Moonlight, who is a deep closer, and he's used that style to success in 4 of his last 6 starts, I should say. He's won all of those. And Mike, he's coming off a pretty visually impressive victory in the Cherokee Mile last time at Churchill Downs, where they were confident to just take him back early, let the pace develop. And he advanced very willingly through the pack to find a seam and upper stretch and come on to beat Dragoon Guard, who had set a fast pace towards the front end. This horse is in very good form right now. I will say he's run some of his best races at Churchill Downs, and I'm wondering whether or not he can take some of that Churchill form to this track, because his Churchill speed figures kind of tower above the rest for him. But he is trying a race that should feature some pace and stretching out around the 2 turns at the distance he's handled before.
Yeah, I noted the good Churchill form too, and just decided that I'm not going to concern myself with it. I guess it's at least worth noting the last time he ran on this track, it was also a big blowout win going this distance. So we'll see what happens. I'm a big fan of this horse, David. I think Chris Block has gotten this horse really, really good, and I won't usually do this. I really like this horse in the Fayette 2 starts back, and I bet. I mean, I thought he could go with those horses, and he couldn't. It wasn't a particularly compelling performance. Didn't go back to him last time, but I again really liked the race that he ran in there. And again, we touched on the pace a little bit. I think they're going to go in front of him a little bit in here. I think he will have a proper setup to come after. I think he fits really well with these horses, and I think he's a pretty dangerous horse.
Yeah, he's a horse that they tried turf early on with, and he kind of reminds me of a turf horse the way he travels in the dirt because he really is in the bridle until they ask him, and then he produces a kick. When he has to come off the bridle early, that's the race where he doesn't run well like he did in the Fayette 2-back. It's going to be interesting to see how he deals with this long stretch at Fairgrounds. The number 2, Henro, he is a horse that did some nice things early in his career, actually beat the morning line favorite of this race just a touch when he upset the Iowa Derby going back to the 2024 season. Since then, Mike, though, he's lacked consistency. They've tried different things with him, going shorter, going longer, trying the turf in his last couple of starts, sprinting. It just feels like they're trying to get this horse back into form, and he's not really delivering, so he's a little tough to make a case for in this spot.
That's what I thought too. When he beat Just a Touch too, that was the first time they stretched him out. I think he had, sprinted 5 or 6 times prior to that. The first time they stretched him out, he got the job done. And since then, his races, and there've been very few of them, but when they've gone longer with him, he just hasn't really run as well. I just think he's better sprinting, and even at a big price, I don't think I could take him in here.
The number 3, Cadet Corps, is a horse that knows how to find the winner's circle. 15 for 42 in his career. Pretty impressive. He's won nearly $500,000 despite never run above a 90 buyer. And that 90 buyer is probably not going to get it done against this field, but he is at least coming in very good form. He's finished on the board in a string of races, including that claiming Crown Jewel last time at Churchill Downs, where he did have to make a wide run around the turn to get up there with Double Your Money, who is in very good form right now. A horse coming in from Parks, who goes out for a very sharp barn. So it was a solid effort. He also ran well too back at Delaware coming up the inside. Just not really sure that he could go with these horses, Mike, given the class that's in this field.
Yeah, it just felt like it was too tough a spot for him. I'm not going to knock, the overall record of this horse. He handles every surface. You can run him any way you want, on or off the pace, and he'll show up with his typical good performance. I just think he's in over his head against horses like this.
If you do like him, I think you're going to get a lot better than 8-1 on him. Hard to believe he'll be the same price as the number 4, Accelerize, we'll talk about next, given the fact that Accelerize goes out for Todd Pletcher and is going to pick up Flavien Prat in this race. Obviously, this horse is all upside. I mean, he showed so much promise on debut with that 92 buyer victory at Tampa Bay Downs. That was during a time when Todd Pletcher was serving a very brief suspension. That's why you see the trainer change after the first start. And since coming back off this layoff, Mike, in the fall at Gulfstream Park, the return was somewhat disappointing, but it was coming off a layoff, and he got to the winner's circle last time. We'll take a look at the stretch run of this race where he fends off another Todd Pletcher trainee. Only in America, they kind of dominated this race towards the front end. And while he does get the mile here, I do have some concerns about how far this horse really wants to go, Mike, and also whether he's ready for this step up in class at this point in his career.
To me, that's the major question, whether he's ready to step up in class. A mile and a 16th that he's going to have to go here around 2 turns, I'm not going to worry about it. I know that that win that we just watched there, wasn't as flashy. Anybody who saw his debut, that was a really flashy win going 7. I just thought the win last time was super easy. This horse never had to get down to serious business in that race. They could have went around again, and his debut was not going to get by this horse. I think to me, he's really interested here. This is not an easy spot for him. I don't think I could have gotten to him. I think you're right. The 8-1 morning line, I don't think that's right. But if he's anywhere around there, I'll be using this horse. I think this horse has some talent.
I do like to watch the workouts for these Todd Pletcher horses because workouts are typically a big tell for this barn. I watched his last workout. It was in company with Life and Times, a 2-for-2 runner who's earned 100+ buyers in both starts. And this horse was no match for Life and Times, who just ran away from him in the morning. So we'll see if that's a negative sign for Accelerize. The number 5, Sir Greylind. This is a horse who ran in the Tenacious, the race that Just the Touch was scratched out of in mid-December, and certainly made it an easier spot for this horse as well as the others that ran in there, Mike. And Brian Hernandez Jr. gave the typical ride for him, patented Hernandez just sticking to the rail most of the way, came up the inside all the way through the stretch, and he got there at the end, but was no match for the winner, not this boy, who is a pretty talented runner. It was the best buyer speed figure of his career. When I look through all of that field and the numbers they got in that Tenacious, I have a little trouble buying that's a legit fig, but he does have some 90 buyers going back through his past performances. He's very consistent on the upswing coming into this race, so he's certainly a contender.
Yeah, we'll see if you're right. We'll see if that 100 they earned last time is a real number. I guess the winner of that race had run some faster races on the go back, so they probably made the number off of him. I don't know. We'll see. I don't like this horse that much, especially against these horses, because I do think it's a pretty significant step up in class. But listen, he can get good trips in his races, especially if this pace gets competitive in front of him. I think he'll be in the right kind of a spot. He tries really hard in all of his starts. I mean, maybe things will fall into place for him here, but he's another one. He's 5-1 on the morning line. That is, to me, that's not a fair price on this horse.
The number 6 Tarantino is certainly going to have to bounce back from a series of losses because he's been pretty disappointing across his recent starts. And maybe I shouldn't say disappointing because he was gigantic prices this summer at Del Mar, going on at 51, 70 to 1 in the Pacific Classic in San Diego. But like going back to earlier in the 2025, late 2024 season, he ran some nice races against Stakes Company, particularly that Grade 3 Essex going back to the end of March, where he was up into a fast pace that completely fell apart that day and was staying on best of all of the speeds at the end behind the last to first winner, Red Route 1. And obviously, maybe that effort took something out of him because he tailed off after that. But I like that he's gotten a freshening since the wheels came off this summer. And now he's coming back off workouts into this race. And I find it interesting that Peter, who's obviously based in Southern California, is shipping to Fairgrounds for this horse to make his return. Because you will note his last 2 victories, they didn't come when he was able to race on Lasix. And he can race on Lasix in this race at the Fairgrounds. So I'm intrigued that they're trying to spot. I just think he's got the back races to make him competitive, and he's probably going to be a fair price.
Yeah, that's a good call that you made there about the Lasix. Not something that I noted, but that's a good point that you bring up there. It could help this horse. These horses are always the toughest call for me, David, just because they just run him in a bunch of races where the results are pretty good. He's getting pieces in some graded stakes races. When I watch all of those races back, because I guess we must have done previews for some of those Oaklawn races early last year. I'm just like, yeah, he's hitting the board against graded stakes horses, but he's never winning any of those races. So I'm just not really sure how to evaluate him. I'm with you on the Essex. That's the one race that I can really get behind, where he ran way better than maybe that second place result would suggest. But his other races just don't do a lot for me. And his last 2 wins, the Lasix races, it's a 40 claimer. And then he, barely wins a starter allowance, optional claim race. I don't know, man. I just don't know how good this horse is. But if he's around the money line price, I can't argue against him.
The number 7, Willy D, is probably going to vie for second choice in this race, coming off that 98 Beyer runner-up finish to Rattle and Roll, a former Grade 1 winner last time out at Oaklawn Park. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Mike, he was dueling on the front end through some pretty honest fractions. You could see he takes over briefly at the top of the stretch here, but it's just no match for the classy Rattle and Roll, who got back in form for Ken McPeak here. And he does chase that rival all the way to the wire, separates himself from the third place finisher. So all positive things. But Mike, when this horse has been successful, he's generally got some pretty good trips. He certainly fits against this field from a speed figure standpoint. But as you were alluding to earlier, I do kind of wonder what sort of trip he's going to work out in this race.
Yeah, I just think when I watch him, I think he wants to be on the lead. And I just don't think that trip's necessarily going to work out for him here. Maybe it will. Maybe Justice Touch won't come back with an aggressive ride here, and he won't be ready off the layoff, and things will work out for Willy D's here. He's one of the horses in here who I think will get bet. I don't trust him that much. I don't think he's that good, even though he's in good form. I wanted other horses in here.
And the horse who will go favored with questions to answer is the number 8, Just a Touch. And this was a horse that showed so much promise early in his career when he won that debut race and then was thrust right into the Kentucky Derby spotlight, trying the Derby in just the 4th start of his career. Actually attracted some support to go off at only 11 to 1 in that Derby. Did finish last of 20, but he bounced back after that. I mean, he ran some big speed figures early in his 4-year-old season of 102, 104, coming off the layoff. Things obviously didn't go as planned in the 2 stakes races he tried subsequently, especially this Monmouth Stakes that we'll take a look at the last time that we saw him in the afternoon, when he went off as the 1-10 favorite, looked like he couldn't possibly lose on paper, and got defeated by Surface to Air, who was the upset special throughout the entire Monmouth Park meet, beating a couple of heavily favored Brad Cox runners that went to New Jersey that last summer. Mike, this was certainly a disappointing performance for Just the Touch, but they went back to the drawing board after this. He's coming back off workouts now, so we'll see if he can finally deliver on that early promise.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the whole key of the race. I mean, I guess you could point to the race off a similar layoff last year after he didn't run well in that Iowa Derby. They stopped on him. They came back on this track over this distance. Yep. He absolutely romped in that race. He came back at Keeneland. He absolutely romped in his next race. And then he was just disappointing. That replay, I think the worst part about that replay that we just watched there, and it's not like it was a terrible performance, David, but it's not a good loss for this horse because he was in charge of the pace. And it's not like you felt like he had some kind of excuse there, like he didn't fire. He was trying really hard all through the stretch of that race, and he just got out-finished by Surface there. So that was just really disappointing. We'll see how he comes back off the layoff. I think if he comes back off the layoff with his good race, he wins. I'm just not sure if he's going to do that.
Like I said earlier, he was entered in that Tenacious Stakes and scratched, only had 5 workouts prior to that injury. He's since worked 3 times consistently, all 5 furlong drills. So Brad Cox probably has him fitter for this ultimate return that we expect on Saturday. Let's go to our picks for this grade 3 Louisiana. And I think we're going to go in different directions here, Mike. We both have just the touch of the second slot. I think we respect him, just have some questions about him off the layoff, especially at the short price. You're going to go with the number 1 Moonlight. There is pace in this race that should set it up for this horse.
I thought it could set up for him. I'm going to give him another chance here just to keep this going. I think he's in really good form right now, and he's not going to be, one of the 2 favorites. I don't think he'll be one of the 2 favorites in this race. We'll see how they bet it. I'm going to take him. I'm afraid of just a touch, but off the layoff here, I'll take 1 shot against him.
And Mike, I hear your criticism of the number 6 Tarantino. I am wary of these horses that just don't seem to get the job done, but he is getting some minor class relief in this race, and I like the freshening. And the Peter Urtenbar has quietly had a very strong couple of years the past few seasons, has really elevated his stats. So we'll see if this horse can get back to the winner's circle. 6-8-7-5 for me and 1-8-4-6 for Mike in the grade 3 Louisiana race 12 on Saturday at Fairgrounds. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.